In today's lab, we will be obtaining extracellular recordings of action potentials from an anesthetized earthworm. We will examine the threshold potential, the all or none response, the refractory period, and the conduction velocity of the nerve. An earthworm will be provided to each group by your TA. First, you will need to anesthetize the earthworm by placing it in a petri dish, putting earthworm ringers in the petri dish, just enough to cover the earthworm, but not so much that it will drown. This ringer solution contains 10% ethanol, which will anesthetize the worm. Wait for 10 to 15 minutes until the worm is not responding to touch. Follow the instructions in LabTutor. Now place the stimulating and recording electrodes on the earthworm. The experiment works best when the recording is done from the dorsal surface of the earthworm. The ventral surface has bristles if you stroke the earthworm in a tail to head direction. The dorsal surface of the earthworm feels smooth. Lay the head end on the stimulating electrodes, making sure both wires touch the worm. Then place the recording electrodes by sticking the 3 metal pin wires through the body of the worm. The ground pin wire should be placed somewhere in between the stimulating electrodes and the recording electrodes. However, the exact position is not critical. The negative recording electrode is placed next, followed by the positive recording electrode. These 2 pin wires should be 5 to 10 millimeters apart. Initially, these 2 pin wires should be placed about 2/3 down from the head of the worm. Later, you will move both of these recording electrodes to a more distal location to calculate the conduction velocity. In all experiments today, it is extremely important that you remember the following things. Handle the worm gently. Make sure not to stretch it, as this will damage the nerve fiber. Most noise can be reduced or eliminated by turning off overhead fluorescent lighting and moving the earthworm preparation and bioamp cables away from any electrical devices. Also, check the recording pins and make sure they are clean of dead tissue. Movement artifacts are caused by a worm that is not fully anesthetized. Make sure you periodically apply the ethanol ringer solution to your worm, but do not overfill the nerve chamber, as this may result in a short circuit and no data. Even with the ringer solution, your earthworm may die soon. Therefore, it is essential that you complete all of the experiments before going back to analyze your data or doing any calculations. Add comments regularly so that you will be able to analyze your data when you are done. Thanks for your attention. Enjoy the lab.